Hello aspirants, looking at current affairs for 6th Feb. The news items that we have picked up from the Hindu are these 11. We'll look at them in detail. The first one, US court rejects plea to reinstate Trump's travel ban. So US President Donald Trump's executive order imposing travel ban on citizens of 7 Muslim majority countries, Iraq, Iran, Syria, Sudan, Somalia, Libya and Yemen. So this executive order was stayed by the federal court in USA, and now the US president, the administration has asked the federal appeals court to reinstate this order, the executive order, but then that has been rejected. So this travel ban has been rejected by federal court now. The next news item is ISRO to launch 104 satellites, 88 from US. So this is Indian Space Research Organization's PSLV C-37 rocket, which is scheduled to be launched on February 15. It will send 104 satellites into orbit. So out of these 104, only 3 are Indian satellites, remaining 101 are foreign origin satellites, out of which 88 of these are of a single US Earth imaging company, Planet. So it has booked 88 small CubeSats. So its CubeSats are around 5 kg each. They are called doves or flock 3Ps. So it has a constellation of 100 satellites. So 88 of these, which are part of this 100 satellite constellation, will be launched by PSLV C-37. The main satellite which the PSLV C-37 will be carrying is the Indian satellite Cartosat-2. So this is a remote sensing satellite. What is remote sensing satellite? We'll see below too. So it is a very high resolution Earth observation satellite, around 650 kg in weight, and it will occupy almost half of the space in the launch vehicle. So other 2 Indian satellites out of 104 are nano satellites, means very lightweight. So this is 10 kg each. That is INS-1A and INS-1B. So these are nano satellites, Indian nano satellites, which will be launched. So they have a short lifespan too, of around 6 months to 12 months, means a year. So these are the 3 satellites and 88 satellites. These, apart from these, others are also CubeSats, means small specialized satellites of customers from Israel, UAE, Kazakhstan, Netherlands, Belgium and Germany. So all these are small satellites. The total payload weight of PSLV C-37 would be 1500 kgs. So with this launch, we are also going to break the world record of maximum satellites launched by a launch vehicle. So this record is presently held by Russia's launcher, Nepal launcher, which had launched 37 satellites in orbit in June 2014. Indian PSLV maximum satellites launched were 20 in 2016, and now we have jumped to 104 satellites, which will be launching on Feb 8. So this is regarding ISRO, which is headquartered in Bengaluru. It is managed by Department of Space and directly reports to the Prime Minister. So Department of Space comes directly under the Prime Minister. Then a little history of India's space research as such too. India's first satellite was Aryabhatta, which was launched by Soviet Union in 1975, named after mathematician Aryabhatta. The first satellite to be launched by Indian-made launch vehicle was Rohini in 1980 by SLV, Satellite Launch Vehicle 3, SLV-3, which was used for this. Presently, we have 2 types of rockets, PSLV and GSLV, Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle and Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle. So what is this? We'll see each one of these. So they launch satellites into polar orbits, and these are used to launch satellites into geostationary orbits. What is the difference between the two? We'll see. Then we have numerous communication and Earth observation satellites. So Earth observation satellites are these in polar orbits, and communication satellites are in geostationary orbits. Then satellite navigation systems like Gagan and IRNSS, which are also being deployed by the ISRO presently. We have spoken about this earlier too. This has been introduced. Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, also Gagan, which is GPS enabled geo augmented navigation. So we are having these systems in place too, because they are similar. These are navigation systems. So navigation system presently in use is GPS, Global Positioning System. So this Global Positioning System, GPS, is an open source, but it actually belongs to USA. So USA might at any point of time revoke it. It has military functions too, plus civilian functions too. So civilian uses, of course, it is an open source, but for military aspects, it does not provide us services. So India having its own navigation system would have its own benefits. So these initiatives have also been taken by ISRO, satellite navigation systems. Then cryogenic engine, we are developing a cryogenic engine too, which is indigenous cryogenic engine has already been put together in GSLV D5 launch, which was launched in GSAT 14. So here also we have succeeded. So this cryogenic engine is an engine in which the fuel can be used at very, very low cryo technology. Cryo basically means very, very low temperature. So this at very, very low temperature, the fuel can be compressed to such an extent that the space. So space is a major factor when you are having a launch vehicle. So here also, how much space would it occupy? The fuel occupies majority of the space in case of launch vehicles. So when we have cryogenic engines used, and the space, the fuel can be compressed and the space for satellites as such can increase. So that was the cryogenic technology is also very, very important. So in this also we have succeeded. Then we have launched Chandrayaan-1 in 2008. Even Chandrayaan-2 is proposed to be launched now. So this has been successful lunar orbiter. Majority of the mission objectives were accomplished. Then Mars orbiter mission 2. So that was in 2014. So this India was the first nation to succeed in its first attempt, sending an orbiter to Mars. We also plan in future to send another orbiter in Mars too, plus also humans in space. So further lunar exploration, further spacecraft probes, launch vehicles, even reusable launch vehicles are proposed to be developed by ISRO. Even the latest development what we are doing is GSLV Mk3. This is for launching heavier satellites. So this is the ISRO's success and track record so far. Then evolution of the launch vehicles, you can see this is the SLV-3 on which Rohini, the satellite, was launched by India, first launch by Indian launch vehicle in 1980. Then augmented satellite launch vehicle, then polar satellite and geosynchronous satellite launch vehicles, Mark 1, Mark 2, and now Mark 3 is also being developed. So these are the launch vehicles of the country, and this is regarding their details. So PSLV is used for payload. It's putting them in polar orbit. PSLV can be used for putting satellites in geosynchronous transfer orbits too. So that is also a utility of PSLV. PSLV has been the most successful of the India's launch vehicles and the program. So this is regarding that. Then artificial satellites, the two orbits. Now what are these? Geostationary, geosynchronous and polar orbits. We'll see in detail. So geostationary orbit is actually one of the special forms of types of geosynchronous orbit. So geosynchronous orbit is here along the equatorial plane. You can see geostationary orbit lies within the equatorial plane. So this is the geostationary orbit. So satellite will stay above the same location on the Earth's surface. So the period of revolution in this geostationary orbit is same as the period of rotation of the Earth. As Earth rotates on its axis, the satellite revolves around the Earth. So it will always be at the same point from that surface point on the surface of the Earth. So that is the benefit of this. Polar orbit is like this. It's orbiting around the poles, north and south poles. So this, the Earth spins underneath it. So polar satellite is moving on in this orbit and Earth is spinning around it. So what happens is large areas of Earth can be seen through this polar orbit satellite. So this can be used for mapping and weather monitoring. Then this is regarding the use of polar satellites. So they are useful because they orbit at a low altitude and high speed. So they are orbiting very close to the surface of the Earth. So this makes them useful for mapping. So they can be used for, these are remote sensing satellites which are launched. So presently also what launch is taking place is a remote sensing satellite launch. So this is used for mapping. So military surveillance, weather monitoring and mapping, remote sensing are the functions, utilities of polar orbit satellites. You can see it makes them useful for observation purposes because they can view the whole of the Earth's surface in one day. So because they are in polar orbit. Then the next is regarding the difference between geosynchronous and geostationary. So geostationary satellite orbit is circular, and this is in the equatorial plane. It lies within that equatorial plane. Geosynchronous orbit will be an orbit which has synchronous, means the time frame, period of revolution around the Earth of that satellite is same as period of rotation of the Earth, but then it will not be in that same equatorial plane. It will be at an angle to that equatorial plane. So that is the way. So out of all the geosynchronous satellites, see this is geosynchronous satellite, the yellow orbit, and this is the geostationary satellite because it is completely perpendicular. So equator is perpendicular to the axis of rotation and this is parallel to equatorial plane or perpendicular to the axis of rotation. So this one orbit is geostationary orbit, and even the height, around 36,000 kilometers, the height at which you will have this orbit, in which the period of revolution will be same as period of rotation. So that is 35,800, 900 kilometers. Approximately it is considered 36,000 kilometers. Right? So this is the angle of inclination of geosynchronous orbit. The next news item is committed to ending triple talaq, Prasad. So this is the Union Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad, who has said that the issue of triple talaq would be handled by the government because this tradition denies respect to women, and central government will end this evil social practice. The Supreme Court is actually looking into the matter, and the central government has to give its stand. It is also asking various political parties to give their stand on the matter of triple talaq. So triple talaq has been in news for quite long. So it's basically against pronunciation of talaq in one go thrice and then the divorce occurs. So this actually triple talaq, ideally mandated in the Quran and in Islamic tradition, is that there should be a period of reconciliation between two talaqs. So that means there are two periods of reconciliation possible. Only then triple talaq is allowed. But then this is presently in one case as it was allowed as a precedent. So this presently it is seen that that has become a norm, that talaq pronounced thrice is considered as divorce valid. So this Supreme Court is looking into this matter, and center is putting forth its viewpoints on the grounds of justice, equality and dignity of women, that triple talaq practice should be ended. Then the next news item is Aadhaar linkage to school subsidy schemes worries HRD ministry. The HRD ministry has expressed concern because the center is pushing to linking Aadhaar number with number of subsidy schemes. So under section 7 of Aadhaar Act of 2016, it has been identified that Aadhaar can be used as an identifier for various subsidies to identify beneficiaries. So there are 31 schemes which the center has picked up for linking with Aadhaar, and amongst these there are some schemes related to HRD ministry. The concern here is that it is related to school education. So this is regarding the scholarships which are provided. So this when scholarships are provided by Aadhaar linkage, so people who don't have Aadhaar account as such or Aadhaar card and an account linked to it, then they would be suffering, the subsidies would not reach them. So that is the major concern. So other schemes which are there, you can see the three others prominent schemes listed through which Aadhaar would be mandatory would be National Food Security Act, Integrated Child Development Services, and Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. So this is for food subsidy. This is for providing direct subsidy transfer to the mothers and Anganwadi workers. So this is for pregnant mothers and children below 6 years of age. So this is provided. Even Anganwadi workers are provided cash benefit. And this is for housing loan subsidy in rural areas. So these would be linked, but then even earlier Supreme Court had asked that Aadhaar can be provided for as required for providing subsidies, but it cannot be made mandatory. It means that if someone does not have an Aadhaar card, does not mean that he cannot become a beneficiary. So that had been highlighted by the Supreme Court. As a response to this, it was necessary that Aadhaar be given statutory provision, that is it made into a law. So this act was passed in 2016, though it was also a little controversial because it was passed as a money bill, so that opposition does not come in Rajya Sabha and all provisions are easily, smoothly passed. So this provision now, Aadhaar linkage, is being highlighted, a concern that economically weaker sections, girls enrollment which is promoted through these scholarship schemes may suffer because some may be excluded because of lack of Aadhaar. So this is regarding this news, and this is the National Food Security Scheme which is there, which was the act passed in 2013. It provides 5 kg of food grains per person per month, and Antyodaya households get 35 kg per household per month. So the prices are very low. It is at rupees 3 per kg for wheat, per kg for rice, 2 per kg for wheat, and rupee 1 per kg for millets. So this is through the public distribution system that these prices, at these prices you will get these food grains. The households covered under this National Food Security Act are 75% of rural population and 50% of the urban population, which is covered. Then next is ICDS, which would also be linked to Aadhaar. So this was launched in 1975. for pregnant and lactating mothers. So this is for children also. Integrated child development services for pregnant mothers, lactating mothers, and for the child up to 6 years of age. So Anganwadi workers through which this scheme is functioning, both are provided, mothers as well as Anganwadi workers provided cash benefits. Then the next news item is Delhi Dhaka Push Ganga Basin Project. So Bangladesh and India are holding talks on Ganga Basin Development Project. So this was conceived in 2011. The earlier project which was being discussed, that was an agreement on water sharing, Teesta water sharing agreement. This had not seen much progress. So this Teesta river, which is a tributary of Brahmaputra, which flows through West Bengal and then into Bangladesh. So this Teesta water sharing agreement will be beneficial for Bangladesh and the West Bengal government. Then West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee is not ready to cede ground here. So that is why not much development has taken place on this. So Ganga Basin Development Project is now being pushed, which will help in agriculture and river navigation. So there will be joint dredging and developmental activities in the basin area. So dredging means clearing the bed of the river of mud, sludge. So all this, so this helps in better navigation. So these dredging activities do take place. So Bangladesh needs a new Ganga barrage too to hold water released from the Farakka barrage. So Farakka barrage in West Bengal holds up water. So water released from here, there is a requirement of another barrage for Bangladesh so that the Bangladesh territory suffering because of Farakka barrage does not take place. The solution to this aridity means lack of water, the desertification kind of situation which is arising in Bangladesh. So if the barrage is present in Bangladesh also, this can be tackled. So Ganga barrage will be able to hold water for the lower riparian states in the lean season. So during the times of heavy rains, it is flooding, and in the lean season, it is seen aridity develops. So if there is a barrage here too, it will result in holding water during this lean period in these regions and helping in agriculture. So this is the Ganga river. You can see Ganga and its tributaries which join it. Yamuna is a tributary of Ganga to here. It flows through India. Here is West Bengal, and then it enters into Bangladesh. So Ganga entering into Bangladesh, it is known as Padma. Brahmaputra also from here you can see Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, it enters into Bangladesh. Here it is called Jamuna. Padma and Jamuna meet, means Ganga and Yamuna meet, and then together it is known as Meghna. So then they flow out into Bay of Bengal. Then this is regarding the Teesta river in up here. So Teesta is a tributary of Brahmaputra. So here the deal initiative which has been taken is that Bangladesh and India should share the water of Teesta equally. Presently the allocation is such that Bangladesh gets only 25% of the Teesta river. So this deal for equal sharing is not coming forth because of resistance from West Bengal by Mamata Banerjee government. So this is regarding Teesta river and the entire projects, dams which are there along this road. This is in India, in West Bengal, the dams located. Then the next news item is Indian American teen finds way to turn seawater potable. So this is Chaitanya Karamchedu, an Indian American in Oregon in USA. So he has found a cheap method to turn salt water into drinkable fresh water. The technique which we have presently to turn salt water into fresh water is through desalination, and this technique is quite costly. So it cannot be implemented on a large scale. So what he has found out is that a highly absorbent polymer can be used which will absorb all the salt. So this is because the idea is that seawater is not saturated with salt. So this salt can be removed. So this is very less expensive method, and it can remove salt from the seawater and turn it into fresh water. So this is a huge breakthrough which has been appreciated by various agencies in USA. A $10,000 award has been given to him by US agency, and even MIT's TechCon has awarded him more money to continue with his research. Then the next news item is new material to keep buildings and cars cool. So scientists have found a new material which is thin, flexible and lightweight, which can block thermal detection and absorb light from every angle. So this can be used in buildings and cars so that they remain cool during summer days. So the scientists have developed this near perfect broadband absorber. So it can absorb more than 87% of near infrared light. So it can absorb light from all angles too. and theoretically it can be customized to absorb certain wavelengths of light too. So this is the new method which has been used. So this perfect absorption of light, already materials are there which can completely absorb light, but they are bulky and can break when bent. So they cannot be used in these cases. So that is the reason why this thin flexible lightweight material is a huge breakthrough. The technique which is used so that certain wavelengths of light can only be absorbed, the technique is using the phenomena known as surface plasmon resonance. So in metals, you will see that there are free electrons on the surface of metals. So these metal nanoparticles will be used and they can have these free electrons. So number of free electrons, if increased or decreased, can decide whether how much of which wavelength of light can be absorbed or not. So this technique has been developed so that particular selective absorption of light can take place. So what will happen is that if windows are coated using this, they can block infrared radiations, normal light, but radio waves, normal light and radio waves can pass through, so that television and radio programs within the house can be easily viewed, but infrared radiation will be blocked. The next news item is Chennai and Mumbai have high wind energy potential. So this is a study conducted by IIT Bombay researchers. Of the 6 cities that have studied, they say that Chennai and Mumbai seem to have the highest potential to harvest wind energy. So in this study, they have seen that Delhi has the least potential, and even Indore, Ahmedabad and Kolkata have less potential. So the study they say is the strength of southwest winds during the monsoon period. So that period they call the period when the wind energy potential is high. So this wind active period when the wind energy potential is high is best suitable for harvesting wind energy in Chennai and Mumbai because they are located close to the coast. So during this period, the coastal strong winds because of the coastal region help in them having wind energy developed. So this high wind energy potential during active period also coincides with more rainfall. So that is also there. And less rainfall, there is less wind energy potential. So that is called the break period. So active period and break period based on the monsoon time of the southwest. So that is being studied. So they say the wind speed is much higher in northern India compared to South India during the break period. So but the wind energy cannot fully meet the energy demand of Delhi and Ahmedabad at that time the temperature is quite high. So temperatures are also high. So if during the active period when wind energy potential is high, that they can be used for fulfilling the demands, and that potential is maximum in coastal cities and not in these in interior regions or hinterland cities, because here the temperatures at that time are also high. The next news item is e-cigarettes and risk. So a new study has linked smoking e-cigarettes to risk of developing heart diseases. So this is regarding that how smokers and non-smokers were compared, a study on them, and it was seen that 2 risk factors were higher in the e-cigarette smokers. Then the next news item is, will budget help double farmers' income? So this is regarding the present budget 2017 and the allocations made in this for agriculture sector. So the goal which has been announced, which was first announced in 2016 by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, of doubling the farmers' income by 2022. So will the provisions in the budget help in achieving this goal is the question. So agriculture, the World Bank data says that agriculture will have to grow at 12 to 14% to realize such earnings, doubling of farmers' income. Present growth rate of agriculture in India is of 1.2%. So of course, this is not sufficient. Present budget makes allocations. So there is higher agricultural credit provided for, higher allocation for irrigation projects. Crop insurance scheme has been expanded. Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. Increased allocation for MGNREGA is also there. So this will help in digging farm ponds. So farm ponds are dug which help during the drought period. This is called drought proofing. Means safeguarding from drought. So measures taken, infrastructure, rural infrastructure such developed are also have been announced in the present budget. But then farmers' income and how it can be helped in increasing the farmers' income. The problem is that how much ever farmer earns, the expenditure is also high. So average monthly income of Indian farming household is said to be around 6,426 rupees, and even monthly consumption is in that same range. So what stays back is very little. So even if inflation takes place, inflation in food items, for them the prices, the selling price of their farm produce does not increase, but then they have to buy food at that higher prices, so they suffer adversely even when food prices increase. So this is the paradox of farmers' lives. And the loans which they get, for loans which have been provided for, so priority sector loans also, much of it is taken over by the rich farmers. So even farming in India is quite diverse. There are very rich farmers too, and there are very poor farmers as well. So these cultivation related expenses for farmers have also increased drastically, so they are more dependent on loans. Anyway, they don't have any savings, so these loans, then they have to pay interest, and when they are not able to pay interest, again they take loans to service this debt. So this results in them falling in neck deep debt, and finally we hear of many cases of farmers suicides as well. So this is the concern as such. Agricultural credit, generally, as it says, large companies, agricultural organizations and agricultural farmers as such take up all this agricultural credit also, and many farmers are women as well. So these women, they do not have land titles in their name, then they do not have loan facility available for them. So that is also a concern. So there is, of course, how can farmers' income be increased? If they get higher returns for their produce. Then higher returns for their produce can come from minimum support prices also, which are announced for them. So this minimum prices which are announced are also not sufficient. So minimum prices should be total cost of production plus 50%. Means at least this should be the minimum price. So this was the recommendation of National Commission on Farmers too. So this has to be implemented, has not been done so far. So the minimum prices should be calculated in such a way that they get sufficient income gains from it. Also, another suggestion is that a price stabilization fund should be established. So such a provision presently has been made for rubber. So then price fluctuation can be managed through this fund so that farmers get better prices of their produce. So this has to be ensured in cases of volatility in the markets as well too. So this is the case there. Also, it says that farming is no longer economically viable because input prices have increased a lot. Fertilizers prices, pesticides prices, even seeds have to be brought. The prices of these HYV seeds, high yielding variety seeds, have resulted in input costs increasing, but output prices and MSP are not rising proportionately. So that is why farmers' income is reducing. Then for drought proofing farming, the farm ponds which have been developed. So this government has taken step to create 5 lakh more farm ponds, drought proofing measure in Gram Panchayats, even through MGNREGA scheme. So that is welcome. The crop insurance scheme, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Bima Yojana. So this also increasing the amount of insurance coverage is required, because here also how much insurance would you get, premium paid will decide how much insurance cover you get and extent of cover which you decide. So not all losses are covered unless the farmer avails that provision and pays a higher premium. So of course then this is not assured insurance would be provided against crop losses. So this is also there. Then another one provision in the present budget was regarding ENAM, National Agriculture Markets. So this is an online agriculture market. Presently there are 250 APMCs under it. It will be expanded to 585 APMCs, Agricultural Produce Market Committees. So this will also help in getting better prices too and linking all the agricultural markets. So this is welcome. Then the NABARD. So NABARD, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, is also asked to be having a corpus fund, irrigation fund. So there is 2,000 crore rupees which will be provided for it. Total fund size is around 40,000 crore rupees. So this is also welcome. Then a dairy processing and infrastructure development fund would be set up at NABARD with a fund of 8,000 crore rupees for 3 years, over 3 years. So this is also a positive initiative. So these are the initiatives, other initiatives in the present budget. So then of course highlighting is that rich farmers benefit. So Indian farmers is not a homogeneous community. The rich land owning farmers are there, as well as the poor landless farmers also exist. So then the developments, the initiatives which are taken, majority of these benefits are taken over by the rich farmers. So then the big traders and this rich landowners take up all these incentives. So they largely benefit them. So that is why it is required that even the small farmers' interests are taken into consideration. This online trading of farm produce ENAM will be benefiting only these large farmers. So the last statement which is written is that farmers are both producers and consumers of food. So even if there's inflation and increase in prices of food commodities too, farmers have to spend that money on buying food commodities as well. So that is why a concern is there. So most prominent thing which needs to be done is fixing minimum support price in such a way that their income in their hands increases. So that is what is insisted on in this article. So this is also MS Swaminathan's point of view. That is, he had recommended this. The next news item is the last one. Company staff must pay tax on gifts. So company employees receive large gifts. So these companies give them gifts, but then they do not have to pay any tax on them. So because presently the taxation is required for any gift which you receive which has value of more than 50,000 rupees, and it is from not from a near relative too. So there are some provisions also there in which cases it is allowed and in which cases it is not. So like in cases of marriage or coming from a close family or by inheritance, etc., then it is exempted from tax. But then this tax is there for individuals. So these company employees getting these taxes also have to be brought in under the tax net. So these gifts will be called income from other sources, and the section 56 of Income Tax Act, which deals with this provision, will be amended so that even these company employees receiving large gifts can be brought in to the tax net. So that is there. It applies to individuals. It does not apply to companies. So this amendment will be done. So that is it. Thank you.